So again, welcome everyone to our fifth strategic planning session. As we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, this meeting is going to be about a quick recap for our last comparative analysis session a couple of weeks ago. And then we are going through discussions around three different topics. It doesn't matter the order that I say right now, but it's going to be about new users and user retention, about participation and incentives, and about financial planning. So we are going to here with me is Lorelike, not only the facilitator for strategic planning, but also for financial planning. So basically what we're going to do is that quick recap, and then I think we're going to start with financial planning, and after that we're going to guide the discussions for the other two topics. So hi Lorelike, I'll pass it to you.
Hi folks. Recently we had many discussions about other metaverses, our own metaverse, and we had made like a short presentation summary with thoughts, with key points. Yeah, I have sent it in Discord chat. So it's moving around some issues that we have in our platform and advantages and other features that our competitors have. So feel free to comment, to say what you think about it. So
maybe we can share the screen for just a few moments to quickly view the presentation. Yeah. Let me check.
Yeah, one.
Can you see my screen, Lorelike? The rest of you can see my screen?
Now I can. Yeah.
Great. So we're going quick, just visiting this presentation. And after that, Lorelike's going to take again the mic and lead the discussions around financial planning. So basically, this is a summary for last session that we had. And basically, we identified those platforms that we discussed about, the key observations, and the main challenges that the Decentraland platform has right now. We also identified some areas for improvement. The first one actually, all of them are things that we've been discussing since the start of these strategic planning meetings, and this last meeting was like a great place to put everything together and discuss about this. Also, some required additions that we identified during the discussions about synergy and avatar system, something that I think a couple of days ago has been released. So it's good that we already had that ongoing, and some challenges and opportunities. We have here the bullet points with the different areas that we compare with other metaverses, such as blockchain platforms, access methods, virtual reality support, the DAOs, builder tools, open source, events, future releases, etc. And we have some conclusions and action points to move forward from now on. And again, this is a part of a bigger strategy that we're building up right here. But this session, I think, was one of the best one that we had, because we have a lot of people there, and we discussed basically everything that we've been discussing this last couple of months. So I think that's pretty much all. Sorry for interrupting you, Lorelike. You can go ahead again.
Thanks, friend. So about financial planning, we also had a very much productive discussions with community members. For example, BCL Coalitions proposed a very interesting DAO proposal about diversification. Morph has also had very interesting thoughts about on-chain income. And I agree also with Mariana that we need like some kind of framework, basic, and then after this we can move forward. But it's my personal thought. Also, we are holding discussions with some players in Web3 systems, such as fund managers like Carpat Key, Enzyme, and we are like just trying to figure out what the best solutions is for our DAO. So I'm preparing some kind of strategy here with summary of some key points of community thoughts and my also vision, and I will share soon. And I think we will plan a financial Twitter space, something like this, to discuss key points. Thanks.
Thanks for that. And well, with that discussions kicked off, I'm seeing right here some of the people that are involved in the financial planning working group and also in the financial thread of the strategic planning. So basically what we want to do is to have a space here for discussing those things that have been around this last couple of weeks about diversifying our treasury, about treasury management, about reviewing our budget for grant categories or for the whole DAO. So again, this is for you, a space for you to share your thoughts. I see, for example, I am not making you to talk more, but for example, if you want to share your ideas about treasury diversification and everything around that, will be great for everyone that hasn't had the opportunity to review your proposal or your comments. And that's kind of the dynamic that we are looking for here. So if anyone wants to talk or share your thoughts about all the topics that we just mentioned, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. If you want to talk about it, just raise your hand. There's a button for that, and I accept you as a speaker. There's going to be a pop-up window. Great, yeah, perfect. So,
hey guys.
Hey, how are you?
Hey Viz, I'm good. Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Just kind of jumped on, catching up now. But basically, I mean, I think we all kind of realize that we're leaking a lot of funds every month, and it's great that we get income from the economy of mana, but it doesn't seem to be enough, right? It doesn't seem to be enough to cover what we're leaking, and it also doesn't seem to be enough that even in times of the bull market, we just weren't making enough income every month to cover $500,000 in grants. So suggestion there, either we got to reduce our spending, which is one option, or we got to find ways to kind of consistently earn some form of yield or some form of income that isn't just reliant on the marketplace and the economy. This is very common. This is not like unseen in DAOs where people will diversify their funds, especially into things that they depend on regardless. So, we're on the Matic platform, we're on the Ethereum platform, we depend on those. I think those are great places to start looking. We have to be very careful. We've obviously all seen the Curve LPs just got hacked yesterday. There is a lot of on-chain risk. There's a lot of centralization risk. Even if we go with a traditional investment firm who buys stocks and things, we have a certain amount of centralized risk there as a DAO that doesn't have kind of a centralized entity to oversee that and manage that. So wrote some thoughts. I think a lot of other people chimed in as well with some really good kind of contributions. If you haven't seen the DAO proposal, maybe we can link that here in a second. But otherwise, come through to the financial planning channel and read up what's being said. We've had lots of ideas, lots of suggestions. I think we just need to kind of run through the viability of those. Ideally, maybe we can get kind of 5 to 10% of the treasury to start out with some kind of proof of concept. But I've seen DAOs that are as diversified as 50%, right? We talk about yield, not in a way that we are trying to speculate or gamble. We're not trying to invest and sell things at a higher price. We're simply looking for things that earn a true yield. So like Ethereum nodes where you're actually getting paid to provide a service, and then the actual amount of Ethereum is deflationary. So we're not just being paid out like an inflationary amount that's actually reducing our holdings or anything like that. I think that's a pretty safe strategy, at least from what I know from on-chain yield. That's one of the very few options I've seen work continuously since the beginning of time, or at least the chain itself. We obviously need to decide if we went that route, decentralized staking versus centralized staking. I don't think we can realistically expect members of the DAO to take on staking. It's too much of a centralized activity. It's not something that multiple people can really run. It would need to be like one physical computer or like one hosted instance on Amazon or etc. So to me, I think decentralized yield and then spreading that across the two most kind of safe protocols, which I think is Rocket Pool and Lido. And I've included a handy little infographic there that's directly from the Ethereum Foundation, just to kind of give you an overview of what kind of points they hit in terms of decentralization and where the actual risk of those protocols would lie. We'd be looking at 3.5% to 5% in Ethereum yield, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you can consistently get 3.5% to 5% returns in a safe way in this environment, it's extremely valuable. I don't know of many other protocols that can achieve that without taking on more risk. And then, of course, ETH is deflationary. So, if the price continues to go up, if the general market that Decentraland is a part of, which is the crypto market, continues to expand, then we can kind of expect those Ethereum nodes investments to expand as well, right? So, sure, maybe 10% of our treasury right now is 2 million, and maybe 5% of that is only what is that, like 100K a year, and that's not going to cover it's not going to cover all the grants we need, but it's going to be a start, right? Actually, sorry, it's $1 million a year. So that'd be 2 months, right? And that's at today's prices. So, if that 5X's again, and again, I'm not saying we should speculate, we can't depend on that, but if that 5X, then that's actually 5 months of coverage, right? And that would get us to a place where we really are reducing the amount of mana we have to sell, which reduces the negative impact we have on our economy. It builds confidence. It instills, more investors to come through and kind of hold mana because they don't see the DAO just continuously selling it off. It builds us a real economy that's circular as opposed to just selling mana on the open market in order to fund more grants. We kind of have, like a more self-sustaining DAO. So that's the plan. I hope everyone can kind of understand where we're coming from, even if you don't necessarily agree with the outright plan to buy a bunch of Ethereum nodes. But yeah, personally, just from experience and talking about, I think risk is our big concern here, right? Like if we screw this up, we lose it all. There's not a world where Curve gets hacked and we don't get to keep, all our Curve LPs or anything like that. So we have to be very careful. But I think, again, if we make the right choices here, I think we're going to set ourselves up like long term to be not just sustainable, but have enough income to keep the lights on indefinitely. What's the plan once vesting runs out? How are we going to pay for the DAO management when we have no more vesting? How are we going to pay GitHub devs? How are we going to pay, like platform grants and things, and even community culture grants? We still want to keep those up, even though we might not see necessarily a financial return on a lot of those. Culture is important, and we want to make sure we have money to invest in the future when there's no vesting. So, yeah, that's the spiel. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I think that's probably all I have to say, unless anyone has any questions. Cheers.
I have a question more. What percent of treasury must be in stable coins, in your opinion?
It's a good question. I think stablecoins are difficult because it's kind of us trying to time the market, right? ETH, we have the benefit that it's timed with mana, so we're not really trying to speculate too hard. We did post about using like moving averages and the RSI to kind of try and time when there's a lot of exuberance, and that way we're buying from maybe like whale buyers, not so much the general community. But stablecoins, yes, very common. People use them in like yield pools as well. I would say like a mana USDC yield pool probably makes more sense than just holding USDC. But I think even further than that, I actually think having like ETH mana and Matic mana pools makes way more sense. Because again, we can try and like time the market, try and get a good amount of USD when we're in the bull market, and maybe that's a discussion to have, if we see all-time highs again. But at these prices right now, I don't know if me personally, I don't know how others feel, but I wouldn't want to try and time the market and sell mana at 40 cents on the dollar, and then it's stuck in a stable coin. It doesn't get to appreciate from that market expansion like ETH and Matic does. I'm not saying that they'll continue going up, just that, as long as we can kind of outperform mana at the base level and earn a yield on that, I think that's really successful. So yeah, definitely open to stable coins. I just think that we got to be careful about speculation and trying not to time it, and if we do buy them, they should be put in a yield pool or something that natively benefits the platform as opposed to just hoarding USD, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Morph. Really great insights. And what comes to my mind right now is that we have these two things that have been we have been discussing these last couple of weeks. The first one is that we need sustainability in the long term, and the other one is that some grantees and some people from the community are asking for expanding our budgets for grants and, well, expanding our budgets as a whole. So it's really interesting how we need those two things, right? We need to be sustainable and at the same time to be more comprehensive or expanding our grants program. Well, I'm not saying that we need that, but it has been signaled by the community. So it will be really interesting to find a balance for that. Personally, I don't think that right now, as the market it is, we should expand our budgets for grants right now. Maybe some restructure, some internal restructure and rebudgeting and reorganizing, but not expanding it. That's my opinion. But yeah, those are discussions that we need to have. So thanks a lot more for bringing that.
No worries. I see Ozcom has a couple of points in the comments too. I just want to address those quickly. So Ozcom, you did mention that swapping mana for ETH, we're still dumping mana on the market through a progressive sell-off. That's very true. If you read the proposal, you'll see that we have kind of a strategy there to minimize that impact. Basically, the idea would be, like you say, progressive sales of mana, but we'd be doing it at a time where the ETH ratio has either, like a 200 MA average, so it's either above that 200 MA, or it's the RSI, which basically shows a time of exuberance, excessive buying. That doesn't guarantee a good USD price. We're not trying to speculate on the value of mana. We're just trying to sell it at a time where we see whales buying and people that aren't just community members slowly buying mana. It would be a time of market exuberance, or a time that we get some kind of post that gets us a lot of attention, and we have some market froth. And basically, the way we can do that is with math. So RSI and MA, it's all just very simple math-based algorithms. We wouldn't be, again, speculating on the price, just trying to sell at a time where that impact is the most minimal, right? So that's kind of what we think there. And also, every piece of yield we earn is going to reduce all future mana sell-offs, right? If we can earn enough yield in ETH to cover even just 1 month of our funding, well, that's 1 month for the rest of the existence of Decentraland that we don't have to sell mana. And so, sure, that might take some time to kind of recuperate that off sale. But as long as we can slowly over time build that up, we're going to reduce our overall mana selling pressure. The other thing I brought up was the nodes. Super good point. I don't think we'd want to run centralized nodes. I've run one myself. It's very difficult. It takes a long time to exit if you did want to, if there's anything wrong. And then, obviously having a centralized figure that would have to actually run that node is a super big risk for us, right? They'd have to have access to the mana, to the ETH, and they'd also have to have access to the physical hardware. So, that's why I would suggest decentralized staking. Again, Rocket Pool, Lido. I think those are the kind of best two most decentralized options. And I think we would spread the investment across them equally, just to kind of worst case scenario. I don't think anything would happen, but worst case scenario, if we saw in a curve hack similar situation for Rocket Pool, at least we have half of our stuff in Lido. But again, I think those two solutions are very strong. I don't really see any major smart contract risk from them. They're a lot simpler. Lending that ETH out to run the nodes is a lot simpler than things like LPs or the complicated curve system. So I feel pretty confident there just from a developer perspective. But really great points. Really great you brought that up. Who has control of the money? Yeah, so if I don't think I can post this in here. Yes, I can. Okay. So here's an overview. Basically, this is from the ETH Foundation of all the points of the services. So the Rocket Pool is great because it's actually permissionless, right? They're able to use the ETH liquidity pool to run the nodes without ever giving access to that ETH. Lido is also very good. However, they have a centralized infrastructure. Basically, the team at Lido has the ability to kind of oversee and move the liquidity around as needed, which acts as a second barrier. So as long as you trust kind of the Lido DAO, then we should be okay there. But again, I like Rocket Pool the best. That's one the ETH Foundation kind of recommends as the most permissionless, but I think splitting it across is not the worst thing. Oh, operating the grant. Yeah, so I think that's a good point. We did talk about this briefly as well, is that, we currently have multi-sig signers in the treasury. It would be great if the multi-sig signers we have the confidence to perform these kind of swaps. I've seen DG do this kind of treasury management before, and it's worked out very well for them. Is that part of their duties? Is that something that we should expect them to do? I don't know. I think that we have to decide that. Is a smart contract? I think we'd want to do it probably manual because it's going to be based on, unless we want to set up like link nodes and stuff. I feel like that's going to be really difficult. Yes, and the legal risk is the biggest thing. So I think, if, again, like bringing this idea to you guys from a technical standpoint, a financial standpoint, but we need to figure out where the risk is, and if the people that actually make those swaps are going to be opened up to risk, that's something we need to get legal coverage for, right? I don't believe there is a huge amount of legal risk. It should be a pretty direct, decentralized swap. We don't need them to go on sexes. We don't need to go on anywhere else. They can just do it somewhere on the dexes. And again, that kind of strategy we have outlined to incrementally make those swaps to not have massive mana dumps on the market. So all good points, all things we should definitely talk about more. Please come join the financial planning channel, and I'm happy to kind of expand on those things with you guys.
Thanks a lot, more. Again, really great insights. If someone can share like the strategic planning working group link here in the chat, please, because I'm recording the meeting and it's not going to, thanks a lot, Marv. So, again, if someone wants to share ideas, comment on something regarding the financial planning or regarding one of those specific topics within the financial planning, such as expanding or reducing our grants program, or about diversifying our treasury, please step up, raise your hand, and I'll invite you as a speaker. If not, I think I'll leave it a couple of more seconds, but if not, we can jump into the next topic. That is going to be user retention and new users. So I give a few seconds more for everyone to share your thoughts or something, and then we can move forward. Okay, Morph again. Invited you as speaker.
Sorry, guys, it's me again. Something that I've been really bullish on this month that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys is the protocol squad. I know that was kind of put in place, I think, by YAML some time ago, but I've been jumping through the Babylon JS client and just having like such an easier time than I had on the Unity client. I really like what I'm seeing, that this is only costing us like 80 grand per year per protocol. And it seems like we have 3 protocols in the works as well. When we talk about like how much USD for what grants and like how much value we get out of them, I think that's a really good example of one that was totally worth it. And if we could spend more money on that kind of stuff, that would be freaking awesome. So yeah, just wanted to say that. And, from a strategic point, if we have more grants like that, then the future here looks very bright. So cheers to that one.
Thanks, Morph. Yeah, regarding what Shake and Bake saying in the chat, yeah, that's why we have put together those 3 topics here in these conversations. We're just like moving to the next section in order to have the time to discuss each one of them, but for sure that they are all related, and that's why we brought them together. So thanks for pointing that out. So Chair, would you like to share something?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, I just want to say hello to everyone and give my blessings to the whole Decentraland community. It's beautiful to see all of these faces here. I'm really excited to be a part of this group of people. When you talk about increasing our user base, I really like to step up in this area, even though I know nothing about the financial part. So I'm really glad that there's people that know about that, because I feel like when you talk about users, you talk about me, right? I'm not a builder or a coder or very experienced to the level in 3D modeling that a lot of the community is. Right now, I'm working as a bartender, right? I have a computer. I love being a part of blockchain and Web3 and NFTs and the Metaverse. So I think that I kind of exemplify what the user, right, is when you guys are talking about folks just coming in and enjoying experiences in Decentraland, collaborating, and possibly building a business or your own thing. The biggest pain point for me, I've been in Decentraland now for almost 2 years. And the biggest pain point for me has always been just being in Decentraland, period. Connecting to Decentraland, going places in Decentraland, interacting in Decentraland, hanging out in Decentraland. The very basic premise of anything that these creators are asking us to do is a painstaking, difficult process that entails, well, I don't even have to talk about it because you guys all know all too well. There's a lot of people here that hang out in the community. And I just feel like until we get past that hurdle, it's like we're putting the horse before the boogie, right? We're asking people to click on this link and join us at this event and come hang out with us. But then, as Canessa and I experienced recently during the testing, I don't know if it's a testing or it's an AMA, we just did a presentation with the DAO where we went and played around in a pyramid and stuff like that. And like, if it wasn't for her, right, I, someone who loves Decentraland and knows about all of this, would have given up. Right? So I can't imagine what a new user or someone who's coming in for the first time or somebody that we've just invited or somebody that we've just onboarded would have to go through this. They would have given up long before I did, right? I would have given up. She helped me and she was like, hey, Cheddar, try this. Cheddar, go out and come back. You're right. Like, and when we had to sit there and like finagle the whole thing, was so painstaking. And I just want to put it out there as I've put it out there before many, many times. And it's been 2 years now and I'm still saying the same thing. I think that until we get over this hurdle, it's difficult for me I love this place. I talk about this place wherever I go. I talk about this place at the bar when I go to the bar. I tell people that I do virtual events and videos and I show them my Instagram page and they're like, wow, that's great. And you know what the first thing they do? They pull their freaking phone out of their back pocket and they say, how can I get in? And then I have to explain them, right? Oh, well, you need a computer and, and then there's all this stuff. And immediately it's gone. And anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. That's just kind of my experience with it.
Thanks a lot, Cheddar. I'm going to mute you because it's like some noise behind your mic, but okay.
Sorry.
There it is. If you want to talk again, just...
my computer turbo fan has to be super loud.
Again, thanks for your sharings. Thanks for that comments that you made. I think it's very representative from a lot of community members that again are not community builders. Are not builders, are not creators. So just the explorers of the Decentraland metaverse. So really great insights. So with that, we're formally kicking off the second section of these combos about the new users and user retention, and that conversations might shift a little to the platform, but also about incentives, but also about financials. So let's try to keep it about new users and how to onboard new users, how to get new audiences, how to reach out to new audiences, and working on that strategies. But yeah, please everyone be my guest to jump and start speaking about this. I see Smurf again. Great. You can speak, Morph.
Oh, okay, cool. So I just wanted to jump in here because what you just said actually made me think of the VRM that we just released, the VRM interoperability stuff with VRM export. I have had more conversations this week with founders of other metaverses and people just not even in the metaverse space who heard about the VRM stuff or like already knew about VRM and saw that we were exporting it. And it's been this amazing bridge, not just for me to actually physically go to other metaverses, but to have conversations with like the founders of Crypto Voxels and like all these interesting people. And everyone seems very, very, very excited to work with Decentraland now that they've seen that we are open to this kind of like larger idea of the metaverse of interoperability. And I think to me, I mean, that's when I think of users and like how many people that onboarded, just to see that our avatar system is like one of the best in terms of interoperability and customizations. That was a huge deal. So again, yeah, just props for like building out these features that like really impact the platform to such a large degree. And also if we can just see more of that kind of stuff, I think people respond, like even people outside our community respond so strongly to that stuff. Things that come to my mind immediately is like WebXR is like a big one that if, somehow we can get that in the future. I know there's like thousands and thousands of people waiting for Decentraland to have browser VR, especially in like the worlds and, trying to compete with VR chat as like the real decentralized metaverse kind of thing. Again, maybe that's my personal opinion, but I know a lot of people that are excited for that. So yeah, again, just props to that. Props to the grants that make a big difference. So thanks, guys.
Again, great insights, and it kind of follows the same things as we've been discussing these last couple of weeks. During the Metaverse Comparative Analysis, we touched base like a lot of times about this, and it's becoming real. So I think like the interoperability, I don't know if I said it right, but like the interoperability between different metaverses and platforms, it's right now, it's the best way to engage new users and to get them to stay on our platform, and at the same time using other platforms. But I think this specific strategy is one of the best things that we've been seeing the last couple of months. So thanks again for calling that out. And I think Chris wants to say something. So, hey, Chris.
Yeah. Hi, Fede. Can you hear me clearly?
Yep.
Okay. How you doing, everybody on the speaking channel and everybody in the audience? I just want to say something to kind of touch upon what Cheddar said. I hope this can maybe provide some words of encouragement. It's just something I've noticed recently, and it's been going on for quite a while. But I think it's really just came to my attention. So I have like everything I have is a Mac. I have a Mac laptop, a Mac iPad, a cell phone. Everything is Mac. And one of the things that I notice is I can only join Twitter Space on my Apple iPhone. And unless I'm doing it wrong, I cannot join Twitter Space on my Apple laptop, on my Apple iPad. And so when I first when I first encountered this problem, maybe a year or so ago, I was like, I didn't think too much of it. But then sometimes when we say like Decentraland, we can't join mobile. When I first heard it, I was also discouraged and like, dang, we can't join mobile. But later, as I start to interact with other platforms, even Twitter has this problem with Mac devices. So I just want to let the community know, like, it's not just Decentraland. And I'm not saying anybody's saying it's just Decentraland. I'm just saying that I know it feels like Decentraland can't get on mobile, but other platforms also have this problem. So I just want to let everybody know and encourage everybody that it's an ongoing process with multiple platforms. And so I think I know we came a long way and we still got a long way to go, but I think there's been a lot of progress coming, and I just don't want us to lose hope. So I just want to leave that with you all.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Let's continue with the discussions about new users and user engagement, user retention. And so far, all the discussions have been around like interoperability, about like the hardware that we have to use to run the Decentraland, and yeah, about the platform. So again, if anyone wants to raise your hand and participate on these discussions, be my guest. If not, we are moving to the incentives and incentive structure in a few minutes. So, Marv again. Here you are.
Awesome. Yeah, so just on that point, I think something that's really important. I don't know what the answer is here, so I kind of just want to bring this to you guys. Do we want to onboard players right now when we say users, or do we want to onboard like devs and builders right now when we say users? Because I think there is like that same term is like kind of interchangeable for users. I'm not sure like which one comes first, if that makes sense. Like, do we need to attract a lot of players right now? Should that be our main focus? And then we kind of think the builders will come, or do we need to attract the builders and then we think the players will come because of that? I think that's just something good to ask ourselves, especially when we're spending a lot of grant money on, you know, things like user retention and what we're getting out of it.
Well, that's the best question I've ever heard in this session. It's really great that you're pointing that out, because there are two separate strategies, right? For sure, if we want to onboard new users, final users, not talking about devs and builders and stuff like that, we need to improve the platform and everything around it. But if we want to onboard builders, devs, and other people that are actually going to contribute to the platform, the strategy is very different. So why don't we like split this up and start working on a strategy for onboarding new users, final users, and onboarding builders and devs and like actual builders. So really good question. I think we should go further on that and keep discussions ongoing and separate those two strategies. And again, what should come first? I don't know. To be honest, it's like I don't know if it's the same in English, but it's like the egg and the chicken, right? So yeah, we definitely need to address that and start thinking in terms not only of about onboarding users, but also about onboarding devs and builders. So thanks a lot for that insight, Murph.
Cool, yeah, and maybe from a grants perspective, that's something that we can drill down on. You know, how much are we spending on user retention of players, and how long do they stick around, and how much are we spending on user retention for devs, and how long do they stick around? I think those would be really good, valuable metrics for sure.
Yep, totally. We got the user retention metrics, so we need to build something around the devs and creators. But again, thanks a lot for sharing that. Okay, we got another speaker here. Hello.
Hey guys. Yeah, nice to see you. I wanted to talk about this question of onboarding because we've been working on it quite a lot. And it's actually very, I mean, there are a lot of different problematic points that have to be raised. I would like to focus mainly on the UX of the first experience of a player when they launch Decentraland. We could also talk about onboarding creators, but I would like to focus on this first. It's a common problem, I think, on several different platforms. The question is, what does the player first see when they log into the platform you are participating in, right? In our case, we are working on virtual worlds. We're working on Metaverse, this idea of basically a big platform where people can interact and play experiences, meet friends, etc. When people go on Decentraland, they log onto the site, and what do they see first? They see a pop-up. Basically, they see an option to choose to log in, enter your account, and basically they need to go through 3 to 4 processes to log into their wallet, log into their account, and be able to play. I think this, to me, is a really major problem. In my opinion, this is what Spatial does best, and what they're really good at, for instance, is you have a link, you take the link, you paste it in a navigator, you open it, and it loads, and you're in the game. To me, this is a big deal. Why? Because if I, for instance, want to be in a virtual space and I want to be in this kind of 3D environment, I don't want to see a 2D pop-up. Eventually, you can put a 3D pop-up, in front of me and say, create an account and link your wallet. But this is important. I think it's very interesting to see different platforms also struggle with UX, like Meta. I don't know how many of you own a MetaQuest headset, but if you log into your MetaQuest headset, for instance, you are putting it on, and basically they sell you the fact that you are able to see worlds, you're able to see fully 3D environment. And again, there, same thing. You log in, you see a pop-up, and you can create your account. I would like to go more in a creative direction. And I would like to put in the forefront this 3D content, the content by creators, and kind of this big massiveness of a platform, because you need to lead with curiosity, because that's what I think make those virtual world platforms really special and different. But it's just my opinion.
Thanks a lot for that. Yeah, really great insights too. Like from a UX perspective, there's a lot of room for improvement for sure. And that's something that we could also start discussing within the working group. Really interesting perspective.
I would like to give another note. I think, I don't know if there are people from the foundation here in this call, but I think the direction they're taking on creator tools is actually excellent. I think it's a really, really nice improvement. The builder tools are getting simpler and simpler to utilize. This entire scene system is really, really nice to use. I want to note that sometimes the drag and drop on the asset packs doesn't work. So currently you need to click and import something. But I think in general, the usage of this platform, the creator platform, is great. I would love to see more features to be able to create teams. Not sure if any of you use the Fortnite creator tool by UEFN, but they're really good at making it super simple, and you can very easily create teams and co-manage experiences and work together. So I would love to see that happen. And just in general, promote collaboration and ease of use and access to assets more. So the more we can go in that direction, the more creators we'll have, and the more people will just go in and test stuff out. But in general, I think this entire builder platform is great, and it's an awesome foundation, and there's a lot of improvements that were great in the recent times.
Thanks a lot for that. And just wanted to point that it's not that we have foundation members, not only that, but also that we have Nacho, Nico, and Jemel. So they are like really important people at the foundation, and this is something that it's good for us to know that they are like taking part of this and hearing your thoughts and like gathering all the insights of this meeting. So thanks to them for being here. Well, if someone wants like to point out something else, this is the moment. If not, we are moving to the next topic. We only have like 15 more minutes. About participation and incentives. So anyone wants to give some closure words or comment on something, ask a question? If not, we are moving forward. Okay, so if you want to keep discussions about this, again, join the strategic planning working group, visit the different threads, the different topics and areas of interest, and keep discussions ongoing. The next topic in the agenda was incentive structure and participation. So that's more focused on the DAO, I think. And for that, we've been working and we've been discussing about identifying the different contributions and the different collaborations that could be tracked and rewarded within the DAO. And for that, I wanted again to invite you all to share your thoughts on what do you think would be good to recognize or to reward, talking about different contributions and collaborations to the platform or to the governance process or to the DAO as a whole. And with that said, we have the badges system like being developed, and that's also like a huge opportunity for us to start like creating bridges between those contributions that we want to be rewarded and the badges system. And why not to make that badges system or to identify those contributions, like put a badge to the contributor and have some kind of reward like a BP multiplier or BP allocation or whatever. But what we want to do here is to keep discussions ongoing about what do we want to recognize as contributions to the DAO, to the platform, how do you want to reward them? And also take into account that we have the badge system being developed, and it's going to be like a great feature for us to merge with these concepts. With that said, again, invite you all to share your thoughts. So if you want to talk, to comment on something, raise your hand. Our star guest here.
Sorry, guys, it's like hearing myself talk. Yeah, what I do want to say about this idea is I love it. I think it's awesome. I think, getting more community members involved with small amounts of VP for being involved with the community just makes sense. There's a lot of people who can't be like financially involved here, but they do spend a lot of time and energy, which has its own value, right? What I will say is that we should be very worried about this being abused, especially if there is like a simple way to get a badge. People spinning up just lots of bot accounts and then using those bot accounts to vote. If we have any kind of VP allocation for like creators, for example, it'd be great that if it was kind of more directed towards how much mana they're actively burning or actively like bringing into the DAO, as opposed to, just market activity. I see a lot of situations where we could get into really gray areas about like VP contributions. For example, as a streamer, I might make like 1,000 wearables and then I'll buy them all from myself to get some VP, and then I'll give them away. So, it's not like I kind of scammed the system, because I did give them away and other people have them, but I maybe created some market activity that I kind of benefited from myself. And then I get all that mana anyway. So it's not even really like I'm spending that much to do that, right? So yeah, again, love the idea. I just think that like any way this can be abused, it's going to be, and we don't really have a way to track that, because people can kind of just spin up new Ethereum addresses or new Discord accounts, and these days, even with like ChatGPT, like who knows what people are doing, right? So yeah, love the idea. It should be very hard to get a badge. It should take a long time. It should have some kind of like manual review, and then it should be worth like a decent amount of VP, right? I think that's kind of right way to approach that.
Basically what I was going to say. Thanks a lot again. And yeah, that's kind of the things that we want to discuss about, right? We have a lot of factors here in the DAO, a lot of stakeholders. We have like delegates, we have content creators, we have final users that use the platform. We have just community members that participate, vote, and just participate on the governance and the decision-making process. So what we have to do is to identify those specific contributions that we think should be rewarded. And totally agree that like the barriers to the entry for having a badge should be high because of the bots, and because it's not like we're giving out badge for everyone and we're like multiplying BP for everyone. It has to be like a comprehensive approach. And for that, again, we need to identify the key contributions that should be rewarded and the key contributions that should be rewarded with the badge. And not, again, I really like what you mentioned about like the things in world too. There are things in marketplace for creators. Maybe there's a way to recognize them and allocating BP to them. And that will be really, really good to balance the BP distribution in the DAO. Balance the BP within the DAO and between the different stakeholders. And the other thing that came to my mind is I heard a lot of people saying that in-world stuff should also be recognized. And I agree to that. Maybe I saw a couple of weeks ago someone that proposed like recognizing the spent hours in world. I don't think that's a good metric because of the bots, sadly. But maybe there's something else in world that we should recognize. I know, such as events, for example, events with high attendance or something like that. I don't know. But again, this should be a comprehensive approach. It should be somehow manually controlled. And again, let's try to think about this incentive structure to get more participation, not only in the DAO, but also in world. I can recall someone saying, sorry, and I'll pass the mic to anyone that wants to talk. I can recall someone saying in the first meeting that we have here for strategic planning that the incentive structure was broken. And I don't know if it's broken, but I for sure think that we need to adapt to the current times, to the current state of the DAO. And again, identifying those contributions, merging that with the budget system, allocating BP, redistributing BP. That could be a good way to incentivize participation and to get more people getting onboarded to the DAO. So I invite you all to share your thoughts or comments on what I said or on what Murph just mentioned. Gino?
Hey folks, how are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
Great, awesome. Sorry I joined late, I was at a team meeting. Yeah, the way I see this is, for me, like the discussion regarding like distributing VP to content creators and things like that is on one side, and it has to be with like the better distribution of voting power units, not only giving VP to people, but also maybe subtracting some VP based on, for example, if you have lands and the lands do not have deploys, do not have activity, or they're empty, well, your VP could decay over time. That's one of the proposals that we've been discussing in the past, and I think that would be really helpful for that. And then regarding like the badges and all the like multipliers or things like that, I feel that those strategies are more like a snapshot of the user. Like, okay, if you are right now contributing, being part of the DAO, spending hours in the DAO by creating proposals or doing things like that, well, in that case, and for a specific period of time, your VP could be multiplied or modified somehow. That's what we're actually working on right now with the governance squad, by issuing badges based on activity. Of course, those badges won't have any like direct impact on the governance mechanism until we go through the governance process for that. But I think there are like two different things, right? One is like the more stable structure of BP distribution. The other would be, okay, can we do something to raise the engagement and to recognize with some little modifications to people who are spending time in the DAO? That's another thing. No multiplier for people asking for grants.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gino. I totally agree with what you just mentioned. Maybe I talked about both things at the same time and people got confused, but really good to like have those two strategies separated. They're kind of like two sides of the same coin. It's about participation and getting more participation, but they are for sure different strategies for that. So thanks a lot for your intervention. Any other comment? Any other person that wants to share some thoughts or ask something? Oscar?
Yeah, I would like to add a few more notes, especially on the process of getting a creator from testing the creative tools, uploading their first creation, to uploading and publishing on the marketplace. I think you guys should maybe look into producing gamification steps or gamified steps for the first publishing. In my opinion, it should be made as easy as possible for a creator to be able to issue their first asset or wearable or anything like that. I think, and I've messaged a few today about this, I think the $150 publishing fee, for instance, is a good idea on the long term to get access to the marketplace. But for the first submission, it's a very steep price for somebody that just wants to test the platform and get in. So I think we should maybe look into making this really easy and gamified and rewarding for creators to go from discovering the platform to uploading and directly participating in it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm not sure how this can be done, but I would love to see this be integrated.
Thanks, Dascom. Anyone else? Any other comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that really quickly. I don't believe it's necessarily a cost thing. I think it's a usability and the learning curve with the tools. I mean, YouTube is free to upload, but I don't know how to make YouTube videos well enough to make money off of it, but it's free and I still don't use it. So it's not a price point, I don't think. If you know, $150 to me is investing in your brand. And there's many ways to play around for free in Decentraland. So I think making those many ways more available to people is the route to go, not necessarily making everything free, because I just don't think a price point of that is the barrier to entry.
Yeah, I do agree. I think there's like a couple of things coming, but I'm just sharing feedback that I got from some designers I talked to. I think for the fee, it would be okay, but for instance, I was shared this morning that there is a note in the wearable publishing process that if your wearable does not fit design requirements, you might not get your money back. So basically, there is a chance that you're paying 150 mana or dollars to basically get nothing. And I think this is kind of a really scary thing for somebody who never did it, who never went through the process, and who just wants to test something out. So this is, for instance, one example. I agree that price. I mean, we can discuss what is the advantage of being able to publish a wearable and the money that you can earn from it compared to the cost of publishing. But I think that making it as clear as possible with the least amount of boundaries is pretty good, at least for the onboarding section. Whether it's free, whether it's 150, whether it's more, doesn't really matter in the long run. I think it's really just making the creators understand that they are heard, that we want them on the platform, and that it's easy to do that, right? I think those three key elements are good, and then plugging their creations to direct utility or to the people who they can produce events with or go further into the community or in the platform. And I think here there's kind of a difficulty, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the key word there you said was easy, and that doesn't tie to price per se. I think it is very difficult to understand what MetaMask is. And when you submit a wearable and you want to preview it in World for free, you have to switch to a testnet. And somebody that's not technical at all might not even understand what that is, let alone understand how to like what MetaMask is, let alone how to change your MetaMask to a different network. So again, yeah, it's the word easy, not necessarily cost, I think. And so easy comes in the form of proper documentation and being very clear, having the tool sets that make it easy to publish and create and be a part of the platform, not necessarily the price. So I would love to see more documentation. Like you mentioned, Oscom, understanding the ramifications of not getting approved. Maybe that might need to change. But yeah, definitely want to see more tool sets that are easier for people to onboard. I think we're just going to keep running into barriers though with the MetaMask and all this stuff. So we have to even be more diligent on the onboarding process.
I agree. I think there's another thing that is interesting is to see that, and I'm not saying that it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I think in general, we can see that all top virtual world platforms from let's look at Unreal, or if you look at Minecraft, for instance, they all have internal marketplaces with assets. I think currently the marketplace we have is only on emotes and wearables and stuff like this. And it's interesting. It's an interesting discussion, I think, to have whether we need an asset marketplace or how to make the availability of assets better. Because that's, if we decide to implement it as a new feature of the marketplace for Decentraland is a big moneymaker, first of all, but second, it also has ups and downsides, right? So I think this should be a conversation to be had at some point, whether it would make sense to have that kind of stuff.
Thanks a lot, you guys, for sharing your ideas on this. And with that said, we got only a few more minutes, so I'm giving the opportunity to speak to Chris. He has raised his hand a couple of minutes ago. And after that, we are going to give closure to this session. I invite Chris as a speaker. Here it is.
I'm sorry, can you hear me, Fede?
Perfect.
Yeah, I like what Ashkam just said. I think what Ashkam said made a lot of sense. I just think maybe we need to look at it a different way. Maybe we shouldn't look at it as an entry to barrier or look at it as, they're having problems. I think we can look at it as an incentive to have them get more involved in the marketplace. And the reason why I say that, I just want to piggyback up Ashkam's comment. So, we onboard a lot of DJs into the metaverse, and one of the DJs that we onboarded, Mr. Big Mouth, when we started onboarding him, he was just coming in just to get involved, but we let them know one of the perks of them winning, the competition is we will sponsor their wearables. And when they heard that we were sponsored their wearables, that's when they started to look more into it and say, oh, wow, this is interesting. Let me get more involved. So I do agree with Lastrom that it's not the price. The price, I don't think is a factor. I don't think $150 is a lot to a lot of people, but I think we need to think of incentives. I think that's the word Austin was trying to use, incentives to motivate people to get more involved in the marketplace. And let me just use America, but like in America, for example, whenever you go to a restaurant, a store, whatever you do, majority of the time, your first purchase will be at a discount. So it'll be like, buy one, get one free. It'll be like, this first one will be a trial version. Maybe you might have some limits, or maybe you might have some you can or you can't do. But the first, the business is trying to get you to get more involved in the very beginning. And once you get involved, and once these people start, whether designing their wearables, minting their wearables, they'll start to see, oh, wow, this is pretty interesting. I can create my own wearables. I can sell it, make some revenue, etc. So I see where Ashram is coming from. I just think we need to look at it another way and say, how can we do how can we make it more incentivized? And I do agree with Lastrom that, price $150 isn't a lot of money. We just need to figure out how to, really attract them. So I think with Ashram, the point he raised, I think it's a really, really good point. And the last thing, and I'll close it here, is I think a lot of you all know 90% or 80 to 90% of the DAO's revenue comes from Decentraland wearables. So I think that's something that's very, very important to us, is how can we think about how to gamify, the new users to use or to create Decentraland wearables and get them onboarded at a very easy way. And with that, I leave it there. But yeah, that was a very great, I got a lot of inspiration from that talk right now. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for that. And with that, I think we can give closure to this session. This was a really productive session with a lot of comments, a lot of insights. So thanks everyone for joining. Especially thanks for the foundation members that joined. Thanks Nico, thanks Nacho, thanks Jamel for being here. And I think that will be all. Next steps this session has been recorded, so we're going to upload it in the next few days once we finalize with the editing. And we're also putting together a summary for this, as we did with the last session. And again, we invite you all to be part of these discussions in an asynchronous manner. within the strategic planning Discord channel. So yeah, that's pretty much all. And again, thanks everyone for joining and for you sharing your ideas.